Hello and welcome to the Car Podcast. Chris Harris and his friends. Each of us, for different reasons, has had quite a week. So this really is therapy. And if anyone spontaneously bursts out into tears during it, I apologise in advance. But it could well happen to any of us. So there's the jeopardy for you. Yeah. 39 is the number of steps that represents one of our favourite films as well. That was the original. What a great film that was. So we're going to start off with a subject that is not dear to probably all of our hearts, but maybe to a couple of our hearts. It's towing. Do you love towing? Do you hate towing? Does towing excite you? Do you think about towing? Does towing make you tumescent? Chris Cooper.
I love towing. I absolutely love towing. It's not a metaphor. Yeah. I actually like the act of hitching something to my car. That's also not a metaphor.
Yeah.
I love the idea, the whole... I'll tell you why. It's an adventure. If you're towing something, you've got an adventure.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter what it is. I remember when, I was about 10 or 11, and my parents had not... They'd worked overseas just before my brother and I arrived, and they came back to the UK. He's an engineer, and they came back to the UK literally with nothing, literally a couple of suitcases. So when we were very, very young, they were very, very... it was a happy home, but we had no money. So one year, we didn't go on holiday. One year, they borrowed a caravan from some friends. Didn't buy one, they borrowed one. And the whole adventure of this thing at the back, we're going to sleep in when we get there. It was such an adventure. The whole thing was an adventure. Towing a boat, a dinghy, when my brother and I were sailing dinghies when we were at school, when we passed our tests and we could tow the dinghy, how much of an exciting adventure was that? Particularly when we thought, how fast will it go? Literally flat out. In my dad's 2.8 Ford Granada gear, disappointingly slowly was the answer. We thought somehow it would go faster than 102 miles an hour. It didn't. That's as fast as it went. And anything up to that speed, the thing was literally flying around in the air. But I think the other reason why it's an adventure, apart from when you're towing a dinghy at 102 miles an hour, you've got to drive slowly. It turns the journey into something different.
Yes.
Because you're towing and it's slower. You can appreciate the whole venture, where you're going, what you're going to do, how you're going to get there, whatever it is you're towing, what you're going to do when you get there. Whatever it was, when we did those things at Landau, Chris, a couple of years ago, I had to drive a trailer, my Brian James trailer, with a Mini in the back of it. The whole act of finding the trailer, putting the car in, strapping it down, hitching it on, driving all the way to the west of Wales, I love that. It was really, really... And I think the last reason I like it is it allows you to celebrate taking pride in driving a car. Because you have to. Because it's quite difficult.
Yeah.
Towing's not bad. Reversing a trailer, that's quite hard. And the whole act of being able to show somebody you can reverse a trailer, I think is a real act of driving nerdy prideness. I worry that the art of towing and the pride in it is diminishing. Fewer people these days seem to realize that on a 3 or a 4 lane motorway, you're not allowed in the outer lane 3 or 4, towing a trailer. I routinely now see people towing a trailer thinking, do you not know the highway code doesn't allow that? That's probably 3 points or 6 points if it's egregious. I had lunch with a very nice chap, Tom Purvis, who's just retired from Motorsport UK board. I had lunch with him last week. I went up to Oxford to see him. And going up the M40 just before turning off for Oxford, there was a Ford Ranger type thing with a flatbed car trailer, nothing on it, in the outside lane 3 of the motorway, doing easily over 95 miles an hour. That seemed to me, that's not. So we don't like that.
Nope.
But we do love towing. I love the skill and satisfaction of reversing a trailer. It's an adventure. I know not everyone's going to agree with me. I'm sort of thinking I might know where Neil's going to go with this. But I love towing.
Well, let's go to Neil then. Are you a tower? I'm not sure. I have you down as a tower?
Towist?
I had a tow ring once.
Other rings are available.
Yeah. in Tenerife
Where
in
does it
about
come from?
1987. You know what? I don't dislike it. It would be wrong. I'm scared of it. I would like to be able to do it. There should
Can I teach you?
Yes, there should. I've got one of those trailers by that guy, the guitarist from Queen, whatever his name is,
May.
Brian May or James, whatever his name.
Professor
Brian James.
I have one of those. In fact, I bought the one with the double rear wheels.
Yeah.
And it's never, ever fucking moved.
Yeah, that's fine. Mine moves very rarely.
Yeah, never moved. And I could save myself a fortune, which is why it would be great to get some instruction, if I knew how to do it. I'm scared of it, really. And it's not just that sort of Clarkson Top Gear, Clarkson's Farm scary reversing thing, although that is a thing for me because it's funny when someone fucks it up, isn't it? And you don't want to be that guy.
No.
But it's even putting the knob in the thing, getting it the right length, reversing it in, and then as for those straps,
ratchet straps.
Yeah. If I knew how to do that, I'd save myself
That's another tell.
Yeah. And I would love if there was an advanced towing course. In fact, I think this has got to be a video, isn't it?
Yeah.
The Chris Cooper towing video.
I have to learn how to
The towing masterclass.
So I have to learn how to do ratchet straps, but yeah.
Can I suggest we shoot it in sepia, as in Mr. Chumley Warner style? It has to be one of those.
I think it'd be brilliant. So I don't hate it. I'd like an Airstream caravan. I'm not against caravans. I love Chris is dead right. The point of adventure. I just know that I will mess it up. I've got a boat on a fucking trailer that's never moved because I'm scared to tow it anywhere. I've got so many towing opportunities.
Yeah.
So please, yes, instruction.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, this is heading somewhere. It's going to be a sexy film. This is.
You're right. We've got it. No, we've got to beginning with women. Don't try this.
Yes.
Know your limits.
Oh, there are plenty of women that would be much, much, much better than me. Most,
of course, they would. No, it's just
Have you done any towing on the road?
Are you asking me or Neil?
Yes, Manish. Have you ever towed on the road?
No. The closest thing I've been to seeing something being towed is the car of my dreams just outside Exeter. It was one of the least funny days of my life. And I did get to see the guy with his ratchet and the straps. And I was going, is she going to slip? Is she going to slip? Just don't think about it.
I'll tell you what you did see there was that was the Bugatti Veyron of recovery trucks as well. They weren't messing about. That thing was spectacular.
Yeah, it was.
Amazing. The way the hydraulics worked, the back came down. It was really like the pod in Thunderbird 2, wasn't it? It was so smooth.
But it came to meet Lola. I mean, we had to give it a bit of a push, but
he was quick. 10 minutes arrival, bang, gone. Yeah,
I'd quite like to. Do you think there is something kind of cool that you could buy that would complement a black Ferrari 456, a trailer that is kind of like a Ferrari-esque trailer, something and I don't know what you'd put on it. Would you put another Ferrari on it?
Another Ferrari.
I think you'd. I think that there probably is some lunatic that's got a 456 with a tow bar that tows a Ferrari race car. I tell you what, I'd put. I'd have a black 333 SP on a shortened Ifor Williams. That would be about right on the back of a 456, wouldn't it?
The other thing that would possibly look really, really good if we could get a Riva yacht and put that on a trailer.
I've got one of them on a trailer.
We've got everything we need on this podcast to create one of the greatest films.
Is it in the UK? Neil, it's on a trailer in the UK.
It's in Hurley.
Right, I'm coming.
Okay, let's go and get it.
Let's go and get it.
Take it somewhere and put it in the water.
Well, there's the
other bit is putting it in the water.
Como, so we could take it.
Can me and Cooper drive it to Como and Manish can do snacks?
Brilliant.
And we'll drive it.
I mean,
I've got a quote Therefore, you guys doing it would be a lot cheaper than my
I'd
clothes.
happily do that, wouldn't you?
Yeah, we do it.
100%.
For 80% of the price.
Okay.
Yeah,
He's
we
a
do.
friend.
I'm gonna undercut you on our behalf. We'll do it for less, as long as we get 2 nights in an establishment of our choice when we get there.
Yeah.
Okay, that's a done
still
deal.
cheaper.
And then we'll all go in the boat.
Fuck it,
Love
honestly.
it.
So towing. Now, I used to love towing, and then something happened a few years ago that spoilt it for me. Towing started with my father's. I don't want to sound like a rich kid, but I probably had a privileged upbringing. My father had one of those lawn tractors because he had quite a big lawn thing, and I, from a young age, loved mowing the lawn. I still love mowing lawns, and it was probably like an Atco-y thing or a wheel horse, and you had the grass collector thing out the back. And I used to take great joy in reversing as fast as I could into where the grass cuttings were kept, and that was what I did at speed. And I'd go as fast as I could through the orchardy bits, and I loved towing. It made it more fun having this thing out the back because it added to the jeopardy and the accuracy with which you had to drive. So I loved doing that. And then you forget that if you passed your driving license, I think after about 1995, you lost the ability to automatically be able to tow. I think it was 95, but I was 91 or 2, and so I could always tow. But people after that had to go and take a separate towing test,
Or at
didn't
least
they?
wait.
Yeah,
So your grass collector, was that a towed grass collector?
it was a towed grass collector.
And that must have had a very short distance between the tow bar and the axle line. The shorter that distance, the harder it's very, very hard to reverse one of
Yeah, I
those.
mean, if you get it slightly wrong, you're running over the thing straight away. So I love that. And so once we got a place in the sticks and I was a bit older, one of the first things I did was buy, like Neil did, a Brian James because I had a caterum, and I bought quite a big trailer. It was too big for the caterum, and then I realised that being a motoring journalist didn't really cover the costs. So I started trading cars. I would buy and selling. I'd always bought and sold a few cars, but then I did buy and sell a few cars. And this trailer got used quite a lot, and I really enjoyed it. I wasn't for hire or reward, but I did really love towing. And I had initially I had an Isuzu Trooper thing that towed beautifully. That broke, and then the Land Rover press office lent me a Defender 110 twin cab that was an extra on one of those films with a female
Lara Croft.
Lara Croft, extra on Lara Croft. And they I think it was a early chassis or something. They lent me that, and I ran that for a bit. And that was an awful thing to tow with compared to the Isuzu, because the Isuzu was much nicer to tow with than the Land Rover. But I've always loved towing. I've always had a Brian James, and I've always, and latterly I've had a speedboat. And like Chris says, I like the fact that you have to be very disciplined. I like the fact that it's a different type of driving. It requires different skills and observations. I also like the fact that I view driving as being sort of stratified. You can't see this if you're listening, but I'm holding my hand one above the other. I think there are strata to driving. I think there's the sort of outside fast lane that you do in your fast car, but this takes you into a totally foreign strata. You're down there with people that have to think far ahead when they make maneuvers.
Professionals.
Yes, exactly the word. You're there dealing with people that they can't just decide, I'm going to put my foot down and go into that gap because they've got 500 horsepower. They've got to plan ahead. And suddenly you're in the planning strata. And I quite like the challenge that comes with that. But the first time it sort of not went wrong for me, but I thought, Jesus, this is a bit more complicated, was when I borrowed a Cayenne Turbo S press car with a hook. And I went to collect Chris Cooper and Guy Spur's Carrera Cup racing car to put it in the showroom for the launch of Porsche Bristol, the little Porsche Bristol, which was run by the man that sells us everything, Matthew Beard. So Matthew said, can we put that Cup car in the showroom? And I said, yes, I'll ask Chris. And Chris and Guy very kindly said, okay. And
I forgotten that, but yeah, he did.
Picked up this bloody Cup car on my trailer. And I realised that actually you can have too much power to tow with. This thing was so powerful, I wasn't aware I was towing.
Yeah.
And once the sort of the novelty's worn off, you're in dangerous territory because your speed keeps creeping up. And also, I had these awful moments. It was dark. I'd look in the mirror, and I thought there was a 911 up my arse, and I got quite angry with it. Honestly, you do. You go, what the fuck's it? Oh, it's my. It was all really quite shocking. So I decided that very high powered towing wasn't for me. What shattered it was I did my HGV for the television program a few years ago. And then if you want to talk about reverse parking, the level you've got to be at, HGV drivers are amazing. So we had to do full, using the headboard. I mean, there's a way of judging it, and it'd take me a few attempts now, but you can park a 25-foot long, 40-ton, whatever, lorry trailer the way you would your car. It's entirely possible. You don't think you could do it, but you can. But I didn't enjoy towing with such a big load. And we had high crosswinds. And I just didn't enjoy it at all. And since then, I've only towed a couple of times.
Yes.
Because I got so freaked out in a high wind when the truck got blown, and I ended up on the grass somewhere in Wales. I just thought, this is horrible.
I think what would terrify me is if you had to get out of the way of something. I mean, you see those videos where a sudden movement of the towing car just causes basically a sine wave behind you get flipped over. Terrify me to bits.
I think the worst one I've had was and this was not in this country. We were being young and poorly behaved. Someone hitched up a trailer with a car on it to a Volvo very badly, and then put the car far too far forwards, and the car couldn't handle the towing weight. And I came to a junction, and there was an incline at the junction, and the front wheels of the car came off the ground, and it pretty much wheelied straight across the junction. So I had no braking power at all, and I realised at that point, it's a bit like flying a helicopter. It's not for cocking about. It's for rigor. It's for taking everything seriously, because if it goes wrong, it's pretty terrifying.
It goes wrong big.
I would like to learn.
We can do that.
There we go. There we go. I love the idea of Mr. Chumley Warner.
We're going to Como.
Good.
Yeah, we're going to Como over. So we're going to go next with. Oh, this is a thorny issue. We've got to do this. I wrote it this way, not because I'm being unkind, because I believe it. Monaco was shite. Monaco is always shite. I'll go to Manish first. What are your thoughts?
I'm a little bit less Monaco shite, Paz, because it's shite on TV is perhaps the subtitle. I think if you go to races, unless you're very lucky and standing somewhere or sitting somewhere that's got an amazing view of multiple bits of the track, Monaco it's loud, it's exciting. There is a kind of glamour to it. I mean, maybe not my absolute sense of glamour, but it's a spectacle, and I think racing there is spectacular. I mean, that's kind of what it is. I think people just go woo, woo, whether they're at Silverstone or whether they're at Monaco. So I was trying to think to myself, when was the last really exciting Monaco that I've ever, I can really remember? And I think, Senna with Mansell all over the back of him in 1992. I kind of remember that. I remember 1993, but that was exciting really because Senna won. Actually, if you remember the race, I think Michael was 17 seconds up the road. His car exploded. Senna was there. So, it is.
Anyone without Senna in?
I really can't remember any really exciting. 1982, actually. I remember I was 14. I was watching it. There were about 99 changes of leader in the last 3 laps because it was raining and everything that could possibly go wrong went wrong. And watching that live was very exciting. But all I'd say is that I think as a television spectacle, Monaco has never been that great. I think the thing is, if you're, it's one of 24 races now. And I think even the reason for having this kind of conversation, it's a bit at cross purposes. This race is going nowhere. Okay, it's going nowhere, and it will never go anywhere. Okay, it's going to be on the calendar forever. It's always going to be a bit crap on TV, and I think the more hot air people kind of talk about it, the more actually they're missing the subtext. So the reason why they're talking at it is because it's going nowhere. It's not going to get axed like Malaysia or like Imola. This, the people who go there, the amount of money that's spent. The fact that people still call it the jewel in the crown every single year, and then 72 hours later go, well, that was crap. It's a TV thing. I mean, my big thing about Monaco this year was this bizarre mandatory 2 stops. And, we exchanged some messages about it, and I had no idea what would happen. I thought maybe, we'll shuffle things up. They did it, if we just remind ourselves, because last year there was a safety car on the first lap. Everyone came in, everyone went out, everyone's tyres lasted to the end of the race. So there was nothing that shuffled it up. So they thought, okay, we'll make sure there's a second stop. I think Red Bull Genius understood exactly what that meant. It meant get the guy who's qualified less well to drive really slowly and back everyone up. And that gives the guy in front a chance to make a bit of a gap, emerge into a bit of a gap, change his tyres again, possibly, and then, come somewhere very, very high up. And Red Bull Junior did that very, very well because they used medium tyres, so off they went. Then Isaac Hadjar came in on the soft tyres, and he had the perfect clean air to use those soft tyres for, 4 laps, 3 laps? And then, dump them, then put on the hard tyre, and that was it. He was gone. Williams tried a version of that strategy and managed to so piss off Mercedes. You saw George Russell trying to break another rule. He tried to overtake him on the wrong bit of the track, even though the stewards that morning had said, no, if this happens, we're going to give you a drive-through. So the thing I think that made this particularly annoying was an artificial rule that really didn't work and that actually just pissed off the drivers. That's what happened. This two-stop rule just meant that your number 2 driver backed up other people to the point of frustration. The exception to that was Lewis. I don't know if has anyone seen the interview with Lewis where the reporter says to him, Lewis, why were you 35 seconds late? He goes, I don't know. And she goes,
why were you so shit?
Basically, that's what she was saying. But sometimes he was like, I don't know. And he was sort of smiling to himself, thinking, why have I got to answer this really facile question? I'm 30 seconds down the road because I'm 30 seconds down the road. I mean, he did have a bit of clearer air, probably. He probably could have been a little bit further up the track, but I think he thought to himself, why? I'm going to come 5th. Shall I come 5th by 2 seconds or 12 seconds? Or, and the other thing you saw with this facile two tyre stop rule was Max holding on until the very, very, very bitter
I thought that was cool, that.
Yeah, exactly. It kind of was cool. It's like, someone's going to come up. Why should I change tyres now?
Yeah.
I'm just going to keep them. The scary bit with Lando pulling out 3.5 seconds in a lap and a half, you suddenly saw what the potential of his McLaren could have been. So, Monaco shit. It's always been shit. When you're there, it's a different kind of shit. When you watch it on TV, it's always a procession. Dude, you remember Daniel Ricciardo when he won it with a broken car? There was about 4 seconds off the speed in every lap. He just backed everyone up, won the Monaco race. I mean, he could have done it with 3 wheels. That's the actual truth of it. So, is this circuit, are we going to really get 540 kilo cars that are super nimble in our lifetimes again? I doubt it. And even when we had them, you needed rain, you needed all kinds of things. So Monaco shit will always be shit, but it's a spectacle.
Chris Cooper.
So I sort of agree with that. It's the Toto Wolff view, which is, hey, if you're here, it's exciting and weren't any empty seats. It's a place to do business. Get all of that. But this was different. It wasn't just shit. It was different. Because this year, it made a mockery of the sport. It was obvious that the drivers were gaming it. They were giving in to the artifice of it. And it made a mockery of the sport. Any business which allows itself to make a mockery of its core and ultimately its customer at some point runs a risk. I mean, it's not remotely in the Gerald Ratner because they're shit, these decanters we're selling, because there are 23 other races which are sort of okay. So I felt it was running the risk and was worse this year, much worse, because it made a mockery of the sport. Cup of tea's arriving. A couple of things I want
to come. That is service, that is. That is
fantastic.
Although she just tripped over the F40. Bang!
First world problems.
A couple of things I wanted to say. One was it would have been better in the Lego cars. All Lego cars are shit. Sorry, Lego, but they are. The F1 Lego cars would have been much, much funnier. And I think, and I said this on the text at the end of the day, there is an answer to this. It's real estate.
Yeah.
And I exchanged notes with somebody on Sunday evening who is intimately involved in this kind of stuff. Has actually made a few comments about it on social media. I won't say who it is. And when they did that land reclamation and built all of those expensive flats at Portier, the last corner before the tunnel,
Yeah.
there was a chance there to put some big loop in with the big overtaking area. Could have kept everything else and had overtaking. Personally, if you want to have a race at Monaco, that is the answer. It's real estate. I did get one other thing out of this race. It was so boring. I spent most of the race thinking about what comedic names could I rename some of the drivers with.
God, where's this going?
I've got some examples.
Oh, God.
I'm not sure they're very good. Anyway, Yuki Tsunoda is struggling a bit, isn't he?
Yeah.
So I thought a better name for him this weekend was Yuki Snowhoper.
Oh, my God.
But the winner, bloody hope you think so as well. Franco Colapinto has been in since they got rid of Jack Doohan. He's not doing very well. So I think Franco Colapinto becomes Franco Disappointo.
Oh, dear me.
I'm here all week.
Listen, careful you don't shout that in a Buenos Aires bar, okay?
Yeah.
At best it will be a snowstorm.
I'd just like to apologise to our viewers for those names, but also like to celebrate the fact that the dad joke is alive and well and is thriving.
I'm so glad you noticed.
Because they are ultimate dad jokes. Because there's no mention of any kind of bits, which I think is good, clean humour. But I don't think Ronnie Barker's legacy is in any great danger at the moment.
No danger.
I thought it was. I left after about lap 40, and I watch every Grand Prix. And I got in the car with my better half to go and see some friends who we were going to go and see anywhere, but I went early, which is quite telling for me because I don't normally do that. I thought, as ever, Brundle says what you're about to think. And he said, very early on, he went, I can't quite work out whether I'm interested or whether I'm bored, and I'm hoping it's going to get interesting. And I'm paraphrasing, but that's what he said. He basically said, I can't quite work out whether I'm on the edge of my seat because I'm hoping something's going to happen, or whether it might happen, or whether actually I'm just witnessing boredom here. And he very quickly moved to the boredom side. I thought, for all the reasons that very eloquently Chris had managed to set up, the two pit stop thing, they made lots of it in the run up to it. But actually, if you're remotely nerdy about the way these things work, all it did was add in a bit of potential chaos. But I don't think it was really ever going to change the result. And I'm much more with George Russell, he of the Love Muscle, when I say that I would far rather have two qualifying sessions. I think Monaco is about. There's no great joy in seeing cars together at Monaco because they make the circuit look too small, and they're rarely side by side. But there's an awful lot to be said for slow-mos of cars rubbing the barriers and cars being. I love the fact. I'll rephrase that. I love, but I'm also deeply frustrated by the fact that the ultimate challenge in F1 is driving at Monaco, and it's never translated on television. You don't have any idea the level of skill of these drivers to hang these things out, and all they get is, it looks a bit boring. I mean, it must be pretty soul destroying.
The quali day looks a bit more. Onboards on quali day.
Oh, magic! Lando's lap. Go and look at Lando's lap. Blimey!
Yeah, we've looked at it.
Absolutely sensational. So
they were 7.5, 8 seconds off the quali time. I mean, at one point, I think one of them was 9 seconds. I mean, they really are not anywhere near the limit. I think that's why they don't enjoy it.
They said when they showed Russell's radio and was it Albon or Russell's radio target was 19s, and Brundle said you need a calendar to measure that.
Yeah, it's F2 pace.
Yeah, and I suppose what the bit that I've always been critical of, it makes no difference. Monaco's going nowhere, and it's a blue ribbon event. Is that it's positioned as the blue ribbon event? This is Formula One demonstrating to the world what it's capable of, and everyone thinks it's apparently thinks it's great, but it's a bit like saying during the early 90s, well, I'm going to show you the best tennis in the world. I'm going to show you Ivan Itovic versus someone else at Wimbledon on grass. There's a bloke that just serves bombs and no one gets to return them. It's all very impressive, but there's no action.
Yeah.
And it's very strange to have a sport that you love so much choose its least satisfying race as its marketing tool. It's utterly bizarre for me. And then you think, well, Spa's in jeopardy. We might not have much more Spa, but we've got to endure that shit for another 10 years or whatever it is. It's really weird.
Yeah. I thought it was as much a mockery as the US Grand Prix in 2005 when the Michelin tyres didn't work and only 6 cars started the race.
Did you?
I thought that was actually more honest than this.
Yeah. Neil, what did you think? Did you watch it?
I did. Yeah, I did. Because we all like the glamour of, I'm sure most of us have been lucky enough to go. And the glamour of it, you want to watch the pit walk, you want to see what celebrities are there, the weather, the boats, all that glamour stuff is, frankly, it's much nicer to watch it on telly than actually be there, to be honest. There's too many bloody people when you go there. It's quite claustrophobic unless you've been lucky enough to get like a mega ticket and you're, up in some sort of flat overlooking the start-finish line or something. There's no doubt that quali is the most exciting bit. You guys have said everything, really. Make the track a bit wider at some point to get some overtaking, do more quali, have a bit more of a competition about quali, or do like a pro car thing. Just have a bit of fun. Stick them all in an M2 on the Sunday morning or something, and have paint them all. Do it for charity. There's plenty of it. There's always solutions in life to everything. You just got to have some ideas and some creativity. You could raise £1 million, couldn't you, with all those wealthy billionaires, and do a pro car thing in the morning and race little 996s around or something. I don't know, but it's lovely to look at, but it's pretty boring.
Yeah,
it's a bit of a shame.
It's the first time since 2008 McLaren have won. Lewis last won that for them. It's been such a long drought. And this is turning into, a bit of a McLaren year, isn't it? 6 out of 8 Grand Prix. The last time they had a start this good was
That's bloody brilliant.
Senna Prost 88, Senna Prost 89. I mean, it's an unbelievable start to their year, and they are looking very strong.
That's wonderful.
Yeah, and I think, Max Verstappen also, is his usual kind of slightly wry self about this. What did he say? It's like watching something where you throw banana skins.
Oh, Mario Kart. He compared it to Mario Kart.
Banana skins. That's up there with sort of Bernie sprinklers, isn't it? It's just so kind of naughty. And, I don't think I've ever seen Chris Cooper looking quite so angry. Not since last week, anyway. I mean, you look jolly. That's the last time you saw him. Really grumpy.
I've been angry all week. Don't worry.
No, but there's something especially.
But it's definitely. I didn't enjoy it at all. I don't often leave before the end, and I just thought I'm not really that interested in this. And do you know what? Lando was happy, but he didn't have the look of a man that had done something momentous, did he?
No.
Which I thought was interesting as well.
He survived unscathed.
We rightly get criticised, I suppose, for being a bit sort of British phobic about, isn't it great if Lando won? But frankly, isn't it great that Lando won?
Yeah, yes. Of course it was.
He got his mojo back.
Yeah.
Holiday changed things.
Yeah, it did, didn't it?
Confident.
That's definitely the case.
He got confidence, my favourite word.
Is Oscar on the back foot suddenly, or
too cool.
Messy, wasn't he?
He's too
Makes it interesting.
Okay. Yeah. This is a question that I put this one in.
Ooh.
What's the best car that received the most undeserved lack of recognition and or sales? Let's go to Neil Clifford, who I suspect has probably owned a few of these.
No, well, I've taken a slightly different perspective on this. only because I only had 45 minutes to prepare for the whole bloody thing whilst driving home in the traffic this afternoon. I think my angle on this is 996 Porsche.
Right.
I know it's a slightly different angle to what maybe you were looking for as an answer there. But you know what? It's a third of the price of a 993. and it's logically 50% better than a 993. The seating position is better. It's faster. It frankly makes as good a noise. It's more comfortable.
It makes a better noise.
Makes a better noise. So I just think, we could do a special podcast of the eras of 911s and how one evolves into the other and what's your favorite, and we maybe should do that. But I think 996 is going to have its time in the sunshine, and it's currently looked down upon. And one day we'll all be like, shit, why didn't we go and buy about 10 of those bloody things?
Okay, I love the fact that Neil Clifford's answered a completely different question. It's open to the floor. You can answer this question anyway. So if your answer to this question is 14, I will congratulate you. Let's go to Chris Cooper.
I think this is a good question. It's very tempting to say the Audi A2.
Oh, I was hoping someone was going to say that. That's a very good answer.
Textbook answer to the question.
Yeah.
Not necessarily better than 996. It's different. Diversity of approaches is what we do. Yeah, because we're also different. You could almost have argued, although it's had a bit of a sales renaissance, the Alpine A110.
Yeah.
Was unbelievably well received. Nobody bought the bastards.
They do now, though.
They do now. Interesting. You look at the sales numbers in the UK, and I think on the continent as well.
Yeah.
After the first couple of years, after sort of 18 into 19, nobody bought them.
Yeah.
Now they do, which is good. But the winner is, both from a recognition and sales point of view, I think it's got to be the BMW i3.
Oh.
It's got to be BMW i3.
I keep looking at them.
I think they are. I thought at the time they were brilliant. I probably felt slightly embarrassed that I liked them at the time, although it's not my answer to the next question. Come to that in a moment.
Yeah.
Because I'm not embarrassed by it now. They were so funky. They were so different. It wasn't a current product with an EV drivetrain. It was a completely new product, different way of thinking about the car. Really nice. Felt modern, appropriate, totally in keeping with what its proposition was. Bit pricey, didn't have great range.
Also felt like a BMW.
It definitely felt like a BMW. The S version was wrong. That was just too stiff.
Yeah.
And if you did a lot of motorway stuff and you're a bloke and you're curious and you like us, you think, I wonder what happens if you try and do like a big lane elk test thing. You don't like that. Stability control very quickly wraps your knuckles and says you'll be having no more of that sunshine. But I think the BMW i3 wins.
Yeah, that's
like
a very good answer. I'm going to struggle to beat that.
I've lost that at our peril.
Manish?
A vaguely American answer, and it's on the basis of some friends who've had the previous car. I think it's the Mazda RX-8, actually. I think it's a really interesting car because I know RX-7 devotees. I mean, not here in England, but in America for sure. And people who've had Mazdas through their lives, they really had an issue with this car. And I just wondered whether, I think in some objective ways you could argue it's actually just a cooler car. The suicide doors, the rotary engine, no turbocharger. But actually, they didn't go down well back in the day. Certainly with, I don't know when did they stop building them? Was it sort of like 2012, something like that, 14?
Could be.
Something like that. There was a little gap. But actually, I think they're fantastic cars. I think the look, just put people off. Yeah, it was a real Marmite car. I remember when it came out, just people thought, I don't know.
It's the funny door thing. It's the funny,
Exactly, those back doors.
Yeah, it's same as the i3, actually, isn't it?
You have to open the front door to open the rear door.
I think it might have had something to do with the fact there was every new car had a quart of oil in the boot for it. I mean, that was the only car in my road test career when I opened the boot and the manufacturer supplied oil with it as a new car.
Did it really burn through oil? Just that?
Yeah, the rotary tips. When they're known, well, if you were on top of it, it was fine.
Yeah,
but it was a ticking bomb. but it revved like a motorcycle with beautiful engine.
I mean, that's the whole point of a rotary engine, isn't it? You get your power over there, not down here. But I think it's actually a fabulous car. I've been looking at a couple of these actually.
Oh,
I wonder
good.
whether it might be a little. I've got this thing. I've decided I've got this thing for rear seats. You know, just to
Is this
have
for a family show, Manish? Just before we go any further?
I'm thinking about.
I mean, I
family
could
dog,
see
actually,
Manish in an i3. I could see you in a black i3.
whipping
very-
around London. Okay, you're
Yeah,
right.
yeah.
So
I could.
I think there's a few of these. I mean, sadly, it normally goes the other way. Undeserving cars, they sell because they have huge budgets and marketing departments and behemoth companies around them. You know, how many Fords and Volkswagens, probably lesser Volkswagens, but Vauxhalls, Opels that sold in vast numbers that really were dreadful and undeserving of the public's money.
Yeah.
But I suppose that's what happens, isn't it? I think, but I think that this way around it's rarer. I'd love to say there were loads of Alfa Romeos and sort of quirky Italian things that I tested, but they were all shit. I was somewhere the other day, and there was someone fawning over a 156 GTA and saying, "Oh, it's much better, much more fun than an M3." You just think, well, that's just it's a romantic statement, but if you want to stand behind that, that's not someone I'd want to go racing toe to toe with. I wouldn't trust them.
Yeah.
No.
So I don't really. There's no real Italian cars that did that for me. In fact, they're almost all the other way around. Like, how much would I love to tell you that a Brera was wonderful, but actually, it was just poo. So I think one that stands out is a really weird Japanese car that I remember I drove to Thruxton Circuit cross country from London in a very good BMW. It was a 530i Sport, 528i Sport E39.
Nice.
I'm not sure road cars come much better than that.
No.
And I drove it to Thruxton. I got there and said to everyone, "This is just amazing. It's body controls wonderful, all that sort of road testy language that we were lost in, and we loved. And I still love it because I'm a nerd. And it was a great car. And on the way home, I just remember thinking, I'm going to get to drive that BMW back again. It's wonderful. But someone else bagged it, and they gave me instead it was like a sort of retirement red Bordeaux color. Subaru Impreza 2.5. Wasn't even a turbo. Legacy. Subaru Legacy 2.5.
Oh, nice.
And I remember thinking, and I think I had to go back into London to see my mates, and I had not had the job for long, so I wanted to turn up in a cool car because they were earning lots of money, and I wanted to turn up in a cool car, and I had thought, oh God, it's fucking retirement red Subaru that everyone's going to go, oh, he's living the dream, isn't he, Harris? Road testing these Subaru taxis. And I got on this A road, and blow me sideways, wasn't it better than the BMW?
Wow.
It rode better, it steered better. If you did the Pepsi Challenge, I'm not sure a car could go down the road much better with OEM suspension. It was absolutely joyous. And to this day, but I remember it was one of those cars, in magazines, you loved finding the unlikely heroes. You wanted to champion heroes that people didn't know about and see people bought them. I suspect Subaru sold an extra 2 cars on the back of our extensive 11-page road test, and the fact that we talk about it every other week in our columns. It made no difference. No one bought them. But my Lord, it was so much better than any European so-called fancy saloon car in many objective ways. So but you'd never sell them, would you?
Do you remember which year that was?
1999.
1999.
1999. Amazing car.
Would you say there was a bias towards European cars, or was the marketing and PR machine better to look after journalists from Audi, BMW, Mercedes? Because you never
no doubt. It's a good question. There's no doubt that the marketing machine of the big European companies was exceptional. But you'd have little bursts particularly from Japan, that would really surprise you. Suddenly everyone would be flown out to the Tokyo Motor Show and wined and dined, and they'd really throw their weight. I remember when the IS 200 was launched in Europe, that was a big thing for them. But looking back, you now realise that the Japanese car companies understood their market, which was they weren't trying to compete with BMW. They wanted to sell in volume Toyotas and Hondas to people that didn't really like cars, but really appreciated reliability and 7-year warranties. They were doing then what Hyundai is doing now. So they didn't.
I always remember that. What would it be? A Honda Accord VTEC.
Yeah.
the sort of mid 90s thing or whatever.
Mid-late 90s, yeah. The
And I
Prelude
always-
VTEC as well.
The Prelude, the two-door Prelude, and I always thought that's a better bloody car than the BMW. But I was only reading about it, and BMW always won the test, always got the 4 stars or the 5 stars. But actually, it goes back to that. Maybe there's a lack of emotion, or maybe the marketing departments are just so much better at charming the journalists. Maybe the Japanese don't quite understand PR. They just logically build a car that's better, just hand it to you and say, I'm sure you will tell the truth.
I think they did some things. I remember that generation of 90s, the Prelude VTEC, the Accord VTEC, and the stuff that followed it.
Great
The
car.
steering was amazing. The engine for a 4-cylinder was amazing.
Yeah.
Gear change, all those things were wonderful. Inside, the Prelude had that funny kind of almost, we've put a bit of plastic in the back. Will that do? So the overall impression left was, I'm not sure, and you're looking at an E36 3 Series at the same time, you'd think, I'm not sure. It just sort of, part of you wanted to think, there's a bit that the Honda does, which is just better. I looked at the CRX, my first company car, my red MR2. I looked at the CRX, the facelift one with the VTEC engine.
That little shoe, it looked like a shoe, basically.
Look at that now. Look at the design of that now.
It's fantastic. It's such a nice thing. You can't find any of them now. They've all gone. And that little glass bit in the tailgate, you can look through the vertical glass bit. But I wish now I'd had it. I thought, because in those days we thought rear-wheel drive is dying. I need to go for an MR2 because I might not ever drive a rear-wheel drive car again.
I just think that the magazines overplayed that dash quality thing. Looking back, I believed it all. I read it and believed it. There was never a thing that I was critical. But now I think, who really cares if the buttons are out of a cheaper Honda? The car's better. I mean, maybe it's interesting debate.
Oh, that's another subject. Magazine stuff. I remember many Audi 80s and 90s being dismissed for poor ventilation, and my father had several of these. We never suffocated. There was always air in the car. You know? I don't remember us driving
every time you used it.
Like the nodding dogs going, Dad's gone again.
It's an Audi. Told you.
That old ventilation problem again.
You know, the Evo magazine, I know I banged on about it on a little WhatsApp, the current one, which is all about the 80s road test, and they're doing a 90s one as well. They review the MR2 so beautifully. That's a brilliant cover of a magazine.
So for those of you that can't see it, Chris Cooper's holding up, I presume that's the subscribers cover.
It is the subscribers edition.
It's got the
which you get for
keys.
free now.
Rather than having the cars on the cover, they've put the keys on the cover, which is bloody brilliant. Fair play to them.
It's brilliant. But you read about the MR2 starts the whole article. And you read it, you just think, what a magnificent bloody car that was.
Yeah.
And there's me getting a 318 IS, which was actually, frankly, cool because you wanted to be a yuppie and it had nice buttons, but it was a shit car to drive compared to that.
And that's the right MR2 with the facelift one, with the body-coloured bumper and the telephone dial wheels.
Yeah.
Again, for the benefit of those that can't see us, Chris Cooper is licking the page of a car magazine.
He's
still got his Kleenex in the glove box.
So now we're moving on to there's a lot of individual car stuff here, but it's a car-y podcast because the clue's in the name. So I'm going to start with Neil Clifford here. What's your guilty secret car? I hope you're going to answer this in the conventional way rather than the way that you decided.
I'm not.
For God's sake, Clifford.
No, I'm not.
Let me rephrase it. What's the car that you think all of your car-y mates would expect you to go, oh, that's awful, who'd buy one of them? But actually, you quite like it.
I'm not even going to answer that question.
It's bad then.
Because I'm
Do
not...
me a favour. Ask yourself the question and answer it.
I'm not good on my feet this evening. I'm going with what I've prepared, even though it's not the right answer to your question.
Go on.
I own and people take the piss out of me, so maybe there is an angle to this.
This is it.
Yeah, this is it. But it's cool, but you can take the piss. There's easy criticism. It is a Bob Peterson Bentley blower. Okay,
Yeah.
there's clearly quite a knobby car. It's a beautiful car. It's not. It is a real Bentley. It's built on you could say it's a kit car. Of course, all the team at Peterson would criticise. It's not a bloody kit car. In my view, it's a singer Bentley.
Yeah.
It's better than owning an old Bentley blower, and it's 20% of the bloody price. And actually, I know I've talked about it before, but I have to thank the famous Harvey, because he rang me about the car and said, mate, you got to come and see this. I know you'll think it's shite, but please come and drive it. And I went down there. I'm like, those are the cars that you took the piss out of, that people, when you went to Le Mans in 96 and you were in a 205, 1.9, or you were in your BMW 328i with the saffron leather, and there was all these old farts in these Bentley blowers, and now I'm an old fart, which is really annoying, isn't it? Because you don't think you're old till you look in the mirror, and then you're like, fuck, I am old. And then you take it to your wife and you're like, oh, a bit embarrassed. I bought this thing. It's a bit weird. And she's like, oh my God, I'm not going in that. That's bloody awful. How embarrassing. She gets in it, loves it. And you do your little 8-mile drive to Wendover to get your cheese on a Friday evening. Should we just have cheese tonight, darling? Let's not cook. It's been a heavy week. You get your cheese and you park it up in Wendover, and then you have chats with nice people, because you don't look like a wanker. You might look weird, you might look old, or you might look like mental, but you're not a wanker. And you talk to people, and I love the car, and it's one of the few cars, if I had to do a little list of cars to keep forever and ever and ever, it would be on it. And it's magnificent. And you look strange in it, but who cares? So
That's a great answer to another question.
I haven't answered the question, but that was all I could think of.
No, you've sort of answered the question. So, Chris Cooper, would you like to sort of answer the question?
Yeah. So if you think that's guilty, you ain't going anywhere in my car for cheese or anything else.
Okay. What is it?
I think it is guilty, really. The guilty bit is, could I say it out loud, let alone own one and drive it anywhere on a Friday evening, any other evening of the week, for cheese or other dairy-based comestibles? No. It's a Mercedes A35 AMG.
Oh, they do look quite good, though.
See, I'd have the de-blinged one, which I think actually makes it worse because people would laugh at you more. So you'd have the granddad spec one, no wing, not with the silly boy racer seats, silver bits rather than red or black bits. So it might look like a sort of an A250, but it's carrying a bigger stick. I saw one on an auction site a while ago, and I thought I could find there's space for that. There's a place and a role for that in my life. But I just thought, Lynn will laugh at me. People will laugh at me. People will think, what are you doing in that, you stupid old man? But I just think it's really clever.
Yeah.
I think it would be, walk softly, carry a bigger stick, debadge it. No one would ever know. I just don't think I could. That's why it's my guilty car secret.
That's my last accident in a press car was an A35 AMG.
There you go. You see, I rest my case.
For trying to in the snow in Scotland, apologise to Mercedes-Benz. I was trying to do a handbrake turn using the electric handbrake for Neil.
Yeah, how did that go?
In a little car park, and it came on when I didn't want it to come on. And let's just say I turned it into a Reliant Robin. So yeah, it went really well. That did. That was me trying to get back in the good books of Mercedes. Not been on an event since. So Manish, what's your guilty car? Your guilty pleasure car?
So the guilty pleasure really comes from this kind of assume that I really like the French. Now that's probably put a few cat amongst the pigeons, but I think there's something.
Le chat.
Sorry?
That's cat in French.
Yeah.
Oh, chat. Well, exactly.
Dans la pigeon.
Le chat amongst les pigeons. You're right.
That's cat in French. Go on.
is in a parallel universe. You can't do this when you have the giggles. It's quite hard.
Oh,
Did you get an O level in French, Neil?
No,
I
E.
like that one.
E.
E.
I got to see. You can talk to me.
There you go.
I think the French did and do some stuff brilliantly, and I think one of the things I really like about them, they've got a work-life balance that they want to protect. You know, even in this kind of, I knew you wouldn't like that. Chris and Neil get up at 5, go to sleep
Fucking
at
work-life
1, working. Lady Frank.
To all of our French listeners, and I know there are a few, we apologise, and you have every right to preserve your work-life balance.
And you're
No, I'm only joking. I'm only joking.
Yeah.
What nationality is the cheese that you mostly get on a Friday? Do you try to keep it British?
Pecorino. Now carry on, Manish.
My cheese.
Well, geez, so I love the idea, right, in a parallel universe of being a French doctor in the 70s. Okay, I just like them. I like the way they practice medicine. I think they're quite emotional. At medical school, it's all very expressive. And I think they used to produce kind of quite rounded docs. You know, people could do a bit of surgery, could do a bit of obstetrics and stuff like that. And the car that I thought would be absolutely perfect, and it is a bit of a guilty pleasure. I imagine having a very nice little French cottage somewhere outside where I work. And the car I could imagine driving to it and from in is a Renault 16 TX.
Oh, lovely.
And it would have to be
great
the TX.
70s, late 70s, mid-late 70s.
The aesthetic of the Renault 16 is so French. I mean, just no one
4 headlamps or 2 headlamps.
Exactly. So you have that, in yellow as well. I mean, it would just, and they had really nice leather seats, and that was the first car I ever got in which had electric windows.
Exactly.
Really?
You know, yeah. The second one was a Citroen CX,
Yeah.
but it was a Renault 16 TX. Had electric windows at the front, fantastic leather seat. The seating position was great. You'd just be a very cool French doctor in that car. It's a real guilty pleasure stroke fantasy, but it's a wonderful car, I think.
Yeah.
Right, I'm going to get through these quickly. I've got 2. The second one I'm going to say very fast, and we're going to move on to the next subject immediately because I will not be allowed. I cannot dwell on it because, frankly, it's bad, really bad. So the first one is Ferrari California T, because I shouldn't. I should not be allowed to like that car, but I keep seeing them around, and I think there's so.
I'm with you on that. That is a very good one.
And they look far better than they should. I know everything is wrong about it. I should want a 458 Spider, but Cali T all day long.
Yeah.
Before we move on to the next subject, I really like the look of the Audi RSQ8 from 2022.
Oh, I know you do.
No.
I think they look fucking brilliant. I don't like tanks. I don't like trucks. I don't like SUVs. But I see RSQ8s and think, wow, that's a really good looking vehicle. And then I have to go. I've had to stop at the services and talk to myself like Gareth Cheeseman style in the mirror because it's that bad. It's that. I'll tell you what. One good thing about losing my job was I couldn't afford to buy one. I nearly bought one.
Thank God.
They only made them in black, didn't they? They only made them in black. I've never seen one that's not black.
I just found a picture of a red one. It looks really good. It looked really good in silver as well because you can see the. Okay, car interiors never recovered once the single DIN head unit disappeared. Discuss. I mean, there's only one answer. This doesn't take long. Manish, what do you think?
I completely agree. It's like an aircraft cockpit without kind of 2 big dials in the middle. It really is. It's just if you just look at the ergonomics of cars before those things. Of course, you have a steering wheel here, and you have your gear stick here, but what do you have right here? What is right there? And it doesn't really matter which car you drive. You can almost do it by braille, can't you? And it doesn't matter whether it's a cassette or a CD or just a simple radio with the buttons, but it's there. It's in exactly the right position. It's completely ergonomic, and it just balances everything that you're looking at. So, yes, the simple answer is yes. Complete disaster.
Chris Cooper.
You're right. They never recovered. And whilst I like and I've said before, I quite like using the sat-nav interface of modern cars rather than CarPlay. I'm the other way when it comes to this stuff, because Alpine, Clarion, the Blue Point, to Germans, Sony even, they were bloody good at that stuff. They were bloody good at that stuff. And you would get those in the days when you had brochures. My first proper job was working when I gave up university the first time because I was shit at being an engineer. I went to work in a hi-fi shop.
Oh,
And they sold Technics type stuff, Panasonic, and they did a few car stereos, sort of the DIN, when the big fat DIN size ones first came out, mid-80s, whenever it was. Might be different. Somebody will correct me. And you'd look through these things and you think, these people know what they're doing. They're only doing one thing. They're making a brilliant car stereo, and you got the amps, and where's the amp going to go in your 1969 Mini, and which speakers, and all of that stuff. And it had a place in the car, the graphic equalizer, and all of the different things. It said, you're serious about this, and now it's just bland. It's just custard. It's just vanilla. No, they haven't recovered. And I think we didn't realize how much we'd miss it and how awful it was. We just thought, hey, at least it means we won't get stolen.
Yeah.
That's kind of what we thought. Phew, thank God for that. No, we were wrong. Steal the buggers as much as you want. Just have them back.
Yeah. Where do you stand on this, Neil?
I totally agree. I mean, it was the end of customization. That was the thing, wasn't it?
Yeah.
At the end of the upgrade, we lost choices. Because you even though you don't really know whether it sounded better or not, to us at the time, it really did sound better.
Yeah, it did.
It did sound better because as Chris says, those companies were experts. You knew there was so many amazing engineers putting effort into that piece of equipment. It was like home hi-fi. You could choose, depending on your budget, or that you could upgrade speakers. You could upgrade the graphic equalizer, which was all a bit pointless. That graphic equalizer, something to play with, wasn't it? When you didn't have any petrol,
never quite right.
Or when you were down the fair in Portsmouth and you just sat in your cars with your mates for hours, didn't you? Just driving around the car park, and you could listen to, the Yazoo album and go, oh, listen to this. You could 10
kilohertz.
Yeah, if you adjust that, you go from speaker to speaker to speaker.
When you were that age, at that age, you could hear 20 kilohertz as well. We can't do that anymore. It's gone.
It was about theft. You're right. I forgot that, Chris. Really, there was an element of a short-term bit of relief, wasn't it? That when you got
always a mistake.
That short term, I'm trying to think, maybe it was that Rover 220 Turbo, a third company car, when it suddenly was built in, and you'd gone from Renault 5 Turbo or 205 GTI where you could upgrade the head unit, and you were like, oh, this is quite good. It's built in now. It's not going to get nicked. But it was shit.
Yeah.
They took something away from you.
And now it's how much money are we all spending on the Burmester or the whatever it is? And there's something you said a bit earlier, which we need to come back to on another day. It was the start of the end, or the end of converting or improving cars.
Yeah, customization.
We should talk about cars and car conversions. Triple C to those who loved it at the time.
I remember with the little checkered flag on the logo.
Checkered flag. Triple C. Russell Bulgin wrote for it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've written it down. It's a loaded question. I love car hi-fis from that era. I'm slightly obsessed. I've got a little shed, little sort of corner of my shed that's got many of them. And when I can't sleep, it's what I search for on the eBay, and I try and buy them. I absolutely love them. I used to find them so exciting, and I think I read more into what hi-fi was in a car about a person's personality than I did about the way they spoke or their open views on politics. If I looked into a 320i with E30 320i, the 6-cylinder car, and it had no alloy wheels, but inside it had a Blaupunkt Toronto, I'd say, well, that should be a Cambridge. That shouldn't be a Toronto. Where have they got that from? Yeah. They either really care about the hi-fi or they've inherited it. That's too high a model for that car.
Yeah.
And I used to just love the stuff. I've still got all the brochures. I used to read through the brochures every single night. I used to go and get them from the BMW dealer. And then it became Alpine. I became totally obsessed with Alpine hi-fis when I was a student. I couldn't get enough of them. I've still got some of them, and we're fitting some into the wonderful Peter at GP Customs, who's just a ledge. He's putting an Alpine into my Integrale. I just think those 6 beautiful green buttons in an Alpine hi-fi lit up at night. I know that car companies in the modern era have tried to manage their special mood lighting and the way they downlight everything, and they've done a great job. You get into a Rolls-Royce interior, a Bentley interior, and it's theatre, really. It's jewellery. But nothing for me will ever beat the first time I turned on an Alpine hi-fi that I put in the car myself at night and turned the volume up and you got that amazing Japanese precision click as it came on and the 6 green buttons lit up.
Yeah.
Just raw excitement for the nerd. No, my friends were like, what's he doing? Good God, he's sad.
Yeah.
But even now, I've got one car that has an Alpine in it still. And at night, because of the Alpine, the interior looks better than any Bentley for me or any Rolls Royce. Because it's amazing.
Yeah.
You're both right. You're Chris and Neil. It was customization. It was something that was also, I like the fact there was an imposter in the cabin. In other words, the car company dominated what you were looking at, but there were these sort of little auxiliary. They were sort of, I don't know what they were. They were sort of sideshows. And if you go back to, I've just bought a load of car magazines again today because I'm right in a rut of being a nerd. And 20% of the advertising was car hi-fi head units.
Yeah.
Clarion, Trio, all of the big players were in the big car magazines every month. Becker was, all of them were there. Blaupunkt. It was, I absolutely adore the things.
That was an interesting point you made there, because it almost felt like the car makers knew they had that place. That the car stereo hi-fi makers had their place, and they weren't trying to fight it.
Yeah.
It was a symbiotic sort of balanced relationship between, it's a BMW, but we don't do hi-fi. There are better people than that. We provided the space. You provide the goods. This is what we're good at. And that, you're right, we said it already, that moment when we thought, oh, actually, it can't be nicked and it's a bit more integrated. Short-term gain, long-term pain.
It did sound better as well, or maybe we were just young. Maybe we weren't so moany and miserable now. I think it did sound better, didn't it? Or maybe it just did.
It was more. There was more flexibility and potential.
I remember going to Virgin Records. I think the first Virgin Records was in Portsmouth in the Tricorn, and buying a TDK M, a metal tape.
I mentioned metal earlier. We all knew
metal, not chrome.
No, metal.
Metal. And it was like 10 quid in 90. It's like 80 quid now, probably.
Yeah.
Yes. It was 10 quid for a blank TDK M90 because
what did you put on it?
The stereo that I bought had an M button.
Yeah.
Right?
Not just a Dolby C.
Well, you had Dolby B and C as options, and frankly, you couldn't really tell the difference much.
Not really.
Then when you had the M for the metal tape button, I can't remember what stereo. It wasn't sort of Nakamichi or any of that, but it was Clarion, or it was. I think it was Clarion actually. I deliberately went and then you go around your mates and record the Toya album or whatever shit that you put on it, but it didn't really matter, did it? It was a fucking metal tape. It was beautiful.
I've forgotten how expensive. I remember now when first job I had when I gave up being a failed engineer, I worked in Ashford Audio.
Nice.
In the Tufton Centre in Ashford, Kent. And they had all of the TDK. I could tell you everything about all of the TDK range.
Yeah.
Some Panasonic ones, but the TDK that's the one you wanted. Bit of BASF, TDK.
Yeah.
And then the metal ones, they're in a special box in the storeroom.
Metal. It was expensive.
The manager wouldn't let you go to. That was a manager sale, that was.
Yeah.
Can't let those out.
But it
The
was
one-
metal. It was heavy. It was
Yeah.
it was a beautiful.
By the way, just to show you, I look at these at night because I quite like a Nakamichi Dragon tape deck and all that
Yeah,
stuff.
exactly. Yeah,
They're called MAXG. That was the one with the metal chassis.
yeah.
Yeah.
So to buy 8 of those now is £1,230.
Whoa.
Jesus
Yeah.
Christ.
Yeah.
Whoa.
They were a tenner. That was when I was on YTS, 25 quid a week. I spent 40% of my salary on a fucking tape.
Yeah.
40%. Oh, my
Oh, I
God.
love it. And you'd probably had fucking Shiwaddy Waddy on there as well.
No, it would have been the first Depeche Mode album.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That is
Okay,
ages now,
let's
isn't it?
get a 2-car garage squeezed out here. Here we go. Now, excuse me while I look at my photographs. Here we go. It is.
Right. What was it?
It's the late 90s. And you're a businessman in Japan, and you've just completed the deal of your life. It's quite a deal, this, involving the Yakuza, a champion sumo wrestler, and some drunk whale fishermen. But you now have £500,000 to spend on the 2 cars of your dreams. One must be a Q car for business meetings, and the other for either two-gay racing in the mountains or for top speed runs on the Wangan. Part of the 500,000 is for tuning. I love this, brackets, including a K&N air filter, and anything else to your heart's content. So it doesn't have to be a Japanese car. That's the most important thing as I'm reading into it. Chris Cooper, far away.
Well, can I just say, first of all, thank you to Billy. You know who you are. He's been helping us with some of the other stuff we're doing.
Thank you, Billy.
So, Billy, this is brilliant. Well done, you. Late 90s, the super duper for the Wang Gang running. It's got to be a rough Yellowbird.
Yeah.
One of 30, 32.
Yeah, that's good.
About that. 29 originals and a few bitsers. With a K&N air filter. Yep. Probably an oil-filled one because, it's a powerful engine. Get our Chalk 15 discount code for the K&N website. I've been on it. I was on it all last weekend. And I think for the Q car, it's got to be Toyota Century V12, the G50 model. Came in late 90s.
10 grand. You get one for 10 grand.
The first and only Toyota V12, I think, in a front engine car. So I think those two together, wow. The Yakuza, he'd be impressed.
Manish, where are you going?
Well, for my Q car, it's got to be a Mercedes 500e, and it's just going to be black with black leather. And I might actually go for some smoky windows or the curtains.
Oh, can I suggest maybe mirrored windows?
And curtains. I just think that is the Yakuza car. The other one's going to shock and surprise no one, but it has to be the Honda NSX NA1.
Well, that is a massive surprise.
Are you shocked? Are you shocked? Okay, but I would wear some little patent leather shoes, some toweling white socks. Have the whole kind of like really, really tight drain pipe jeans. You want to wear an American football jacket, don't you? With 5 sizes too big. Little white t-shirt. I think just play with. I don't know if there's that much to do on that. Stiffen the springs, perhaps a little bit. You put your K&N filter in, but my God, that would be a good car. They were lighter, weren't they? They weren't as powerful as the NA2. But it's a lighter car. It rattled a bit more. I think great car to do the Wangan in.
Neil Clifford. I'm just looking at something that I should have chosen. Sorry, carry on.
I was going to change my mind, but I'm not. I'm going really with Manish on the Q car. I'm gonna go slightly up a level just because I've owned this car. It was owned by the Tetra Pak.
Rousing,
yeah. And I bought it for 15 grand, and now it's worth like 1.7 million pounds or something.
R34 GTR.
No, is an E60.
Oh,
E60. Yeah.
E60. I think there's only 12 or 10 UK cars, or even less. I had one of the UK cars. It was Rousings from New. Like, why did I sell that car? Debadged. It's got that crazy German sort of Bauhaus diagonal shitty leather. The leather's a bit weird on the inside. You much prefer an E500 with the half cloth.
Yeah.
And actually, even the wheels aren't as nice because they're
A bit blingy.
They're a bit blingy, but the 6 litre in that is
not blingy.
Yeah, if you debadge that, that's really good. And then the race car I don't even know what the word is. This wang dang. I've no idea what that bloody is.
That's going out when they do Midnight Club, isn't it?
Okay,
yeah.
Our
producer will help us.
Race to Mount Fuji type thing, that sort of thing.
Tokyo 2.
I was really thinking instinctively, late 90s Japanese. It was all about Ferrari, wasn't it? They were buying every Ferrari. I know that's actually it's more 89, 88, really, isn't it? But I was going to go Ferrari F50, F40, but you know what? I'm not. Because the one thing I'd like to be able to fit in, which I can't fit in because I'm too tall and fat, and therefore I'd like to be Japanese for a day, is a GT40. And for 500 grand in 1990, you could easily buy an original one. And now they're like, whatever, 5 million, 7 million, 8 million, 9 million. If it was a race car, if it raced in Le Mans, probably even more. And I think, the induction noise is amazing. You can fit about 400k in an air filters to it because it's, super good. And I think it's actually one of the best looking cars of all time. Yeah. It's just a fabulous car, and I don't fit in one. I've tried so much. I'm just too tall, and I'd love one. Yeah. And if I was Japanese, I'd own one.
Yeah. You would look like you're driving a Lego car if you drove it, but hey.
I've squeezed in one at DK.
Yeah.
Not even a real one, obviously. One of those kit car ones, but like a good,
Yeah, they're good.
It was a tool room copy from an original car. All that sort of bullshit that it's a real one. But it's not a real one, is it? It's a fucking kit car.
No one drives real ones now. They're all copies.
No, exactly. But I don't fit in it, so there you go.
I've raced a few ones that aren't entirely real. They scare you just as much as the real ones. I've driven the real ones. They both make you shit yourself when they go sideways.
Just amazing.
Okay, so I'm thinking one Japanese, one European for me is about the right mix. The Q car, I'm amazed you've not gone for this. I think you've nailed the Q car, the three of you. But there's one particular Q car saloon brand is I think the second biggest market for this little brand that we love so much, and they happen to look the best in the world because obviously the Japanese number plate is the best looking number plate in the world. We all agree that, don't we?
Yeah.
Alpina has a very strong relationship with Japan.
Yeah.
And the best Alpina used cars come out of Japan, don't they? And this particular man has got himself an E38 B12 5.7 cat left-hand drive, but it's got a 730i badge on the back of it.
Nice.
And some lightly tinted windows. So those that know. Those that don't know wonder why there's a 730i with such big wheels. The Touge is different. The Touge suggests that you want to have rear-wheel drive. Now, we're just a little bit before the S2000 here, so I'm not allowed one of them. I've thought about this, obviously. But there is only one car really for me, and it says it's four-wheel drive, but it behaves like a rear-wheel drive car. That's the R32 GTR, which I've crowed about before. It's the unloved one. It's the blobfish one. It's too big and too fat. But for me, it's the GTR.
32.
Yeah, 33. 33. Sorry, I've got it wrong. 33. The blobby one that's the late 90s car. The second
purple one. Yeah.
And I just want one of those.
Godzilla.
It's gone to some shop that's got a very European sounding name. It's like the Irish pub bar shop. And it's out the back of somewhere in Tokyo. And it's got 800 horsepower. And it goes like a stabbed rat. And it spits flames. And it's got one of those exhausts that's about 5 centimeters big out the back. And it comes out at that really weird angle. It looks like it's an unfinished project.
Yeah, it's that angle.
Like that. So, yes, I absolutely... That's one of my most enjoyable two-car garages. Who was it who gave it to us?
Billy.
Thank you, Billy. Love a bit of Jap stuff. Right. We've been crapping on for a while. Let's go for a little bit of music before we leave. Manish, what would you like for your music?
Absolutely perfect on a metal tape from the late 70s and early 80s. And it will be Japan's In Vogue, which was on their album Quiet Life. Beautiful song.
Oh, Japan on an M tape. That's what it was for.
That is what it was for.
Chris Cooper,
I recorded this album on a TDK metal tape that I got a discount on, employees discount. But the song is Howard Jones, What Is Love?
Oh, fucking hell.
Isn't that good?
He's touring again.
I know. And I saw that. That's why I thought of him.
He's touring again.
I know.
He's just amazing, Howard Jones. What is love? What is love anyway?
What is love anyway? Anyway, yeah, exactly. And all those synth drums,
Yeah,
on a metal tape, brilliant.
Does anybody need love anyway?
Yeah. He's just amazing, Howard Jones.
Yeah, he's awesome. Okay, Neil Clifford.
Right, the last of the single din cars that I owned, probably 205 1.9 GTI, 1993-94, Stone Roses, Second Coming, first song, Breaking Into Heaven. That is what a proper stereo in your car is for.
Perfect.
Now, there's a song by a Japanese girl group that went viral on Instagram about a month ago with the girl that somehow enunciates Japanese words at a speed that I can't imagine. It's a completely addictive song. I think the band's called Haku, Haku, and I think the song's called Mono No Aware, if I'm right. We'll get it right for you on this. But honestly, watch these four girls. It's just like a jamming session, just dripping with talent, and they're mesmerising. Manish is nodding. Clearly, he's seen it. I can't stop watching it.
It's rocky. It's very cool rock.
Exactly.
Yeah, I've seen it.
She's just standing there doing this. It's amazing.
Yeah. They're absolutely they're just talent. So yeah, if we can find them, please listen to that. It's a great tune. We are, by the way, looking to find a way of officially getting our Spotify act together. I know there are people out there that do it for us, but we will endeavour to get that sorted out.
Yeah.
I'd like to say a big thank you to my learned friends who once again have provided me much amusement. So thank you for joining us, Chris, Neil and Manish, and I hope that we all meet together next week to bore the tits off you again.